Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Wrestling Diaries. I'm your host, Mitchell Roulane, and this is the podcast show for the average Joe, where we talk about things in life that pertain to just everyday ordinary people. I don't really have celebrities on the show, although I did have Kung Lee, so anybody interested in that gentleman should check that out. He's really awesome. But if you'd like to, please follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and all the other forms that host podcasts on your audio device. And follow us on YouTube so you can actually see the video cast of the show. Subscribe, like, comment, and hit the notification ding, 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 so you can get new videos and content. I also do the spoken word sessions where it's just me, and I read literature that I've either written or stories that I have about life. And then other people send things in, poems, stories, pieces from their books, and I read them aloud. Last week I did a story by a good friend named Giorgio Ferrer about his time in school, and it was I thought it was really good. So check that out if you would like to. Today I have a very awesome guest who is a life coach here in the local Birmingham area, Sarah Rezonzew. Did I do it?
You did
Good?
it. Yeah, you got my name.
Right. So Sarah, thank you for being on the show today. I really appreciate it.
I thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So tell everybody, and myself included, a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, gosh, this question always stumps me because I'm like, where to start, where to begin?
Hey, you can start wherever you'd like and end wherever you'd like.
So I am, I guess, kind of a recent arrival to Birmingham in the sense that I've been here almost 7 years. I came here 7 years ago from Portland, Oregon. And I am, as you said, a life coach. I'm a transformation life coach. So I like to help people get results, but not just that, just change their lives dramatically, going from where they are to where they really want to be. I work from home, which is great.
That's the best.
It is.
High promotion here, people. Work from home. It's the best.
Yeah, it is. And I'm married to the love of my life who's here with me on the other side of the camera.
No one can see him. He's over there with moral support. He's got a sign up. Go, Sarah.
And Gabriel, who is really the love of my life. And we've been married a little bit over 2 years.
Oh, so y'all are basically still newlyweds.
Yeah, we are. Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
Congratulations. I know it's kind of late, but
it's all right. We'll take it every day. Makes it seem like it's all happening all over again.
So Sarah, what you said you moved here from Oregon. What was the reason for the move, if I can ask?
Well, I lived in the Northwest for 13 years, and I was married twice when I was there. My second marriage was 8 years long, and after it ended, I kind of like had a year of where I was just trying to find myself. And then I had a sister here who was living in Phoenix City, Alabama, and she was getting her master's at UAB. So she was here on the weeks. And so she said, why don't you come and just start your life over, get a new life? And she first originally invited me after my divorce, within a few months after my divorce. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I decided that I was going to go ahead and go for it. And so that's why I moved here. I really felt like it was the right thing to do.
And you said you've been here for 7 years. So I'm assuming it's safe to assume that you like Alabama then, right?
Well, I have to like Alabama. My husband is here.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's what. So you've been here for 7 years, and you said you were married for 2. So that means for the first 5 years, you were single and you hadn't met Gabriel yet.
Well, it's interesting. We actually met at the synagogue I was attending. So I knew him before. We actually met when I was walking to synagogue. I walked to synagogue, and he came up behind me as he was walking to synagogue, and that was my first introduction to him. He was married at the time, so we didn't really talk. I did have dinner at his house one time, and then I went through a lot of things in my life. Like you said, I was single, but then I got into a really horrible relationship that ended, and I actually left Birmingham and went back to Oregon. I've actually gone back to Oregon twice.
Okay.
I've actually gone back to Oregon twice, and because I love Oregon, but there's a lot of crazy stuff going on there right now, which is political, so I won't go there. But anyway, I went to Oregon to get away from Birmingham because my the abuser was threatening my life and threatening to have people come take care of me. So I was scared to death.
Jeez Louise.
So I took off And to go back to, actually wasn't even Oregon. It was a place in Washington, a little tiny itty bitty town. That nobody would ever think I was there. I had a friend there. And when I met with a friend for coffee, now I'm not a person who likes gossip. I'm like the last person to know anything that's going on because I just stay away from it. So when we were meeting for coffee, and I was like saying my goodbyes, she didn't know I was leaving because I didn't tell anybody, but it was my way of parting with people. She told me that he and his ex-wife had divorced. And I said, oh, that's so sad. And she said, no, not really. And then I just changed the subject because I didn't want to figure out I didn't want to hear anything. And anyway, not too long after that, I posted something on Facebook about not being able to sleep. That's when I was a little bit more personal in my kind of letting people know what was going on a little bit more. And he reached out and said, oh, I've suffered from insomnia too, and da-da-da. And I was like very suspicious of people back then.
I can imagine.
So I told my friend who I was staying with, I said, Barb, I don't know what this guy wants. I know he just got divorced, but I'm not into anything like this right now. And I'm just I don't want to be mean. So it took me about half a day, and I finally responded with just the words, okay. And that was it. We didn't have any more conversation or communication. And then I don't know, about a few weeks later, I liked something he posted, and he reached out to me. And I'm like, what are you doing, stalking me?
Oh, no.
And he says, no. I get notifications when people like my posts. And I felt so bad. I felt terrible. And I thought, well, maybe I'd give him a little bit of a break. So I did. We started talking back and forth. And he still didn't know I wasn't in Birmingham. He asked me to come to Shabbat dinner. He said it was going to be very, very, relaxed. He didn't use these words, but it wasn't a date. He was going to have other people over, and he was just inviting people for dinner for Shabbat, which is Friday night dinner. And I said, well, I'll have to take a rain check. And I was already gone. And so then, anyway, we kept talking. And this whole time, he had no idea where I was. And then one night, I was at a girls' weekend getaway kind of thing. And we had gotten onto this Marco Polo.
The app
Marco
okay.
Polo. So we had been sending videos back and forth to each other. And it was all just very friendly. And I wasn't interested in him, anything like that. And I was still being very careful. And my husband is a Chabad, which is a certain sect of Judaism, and more observant than, there's different levels of Judaism. Anyway, I don't want to get into a big explanation, but part of that being Chabad and being observant in that way is you're very concerned about other people keeping what are called mitzvot, commandments. And so he got on Marco Polo at the end of Shabbat, which is Saturday night. And he said, I don't know if you've had a chance to do Havdalah, which is a ceremony we do to close Shabbat. But I just thought it'd be nice to just do Havdalah and let you see what I'm doing. So I watched that, and I was so touched by his sincerity. And I realized he had no ulterior motive whatsoever. He was just being a very nice person. And I always tell people I think that's when I fell in love with him. And then he invited me to Shabbat dinner again. I said, I got to tell you something. I think that's not going to happen. But if you're ever in Seattle, maybe we can get some coffee.
Whoa. I wonder if I can't wait to have him on the podcast so I can ask him all these things and get his interpretation of the story from his side. Like, I wonder if his heart, if I was him, I would have been like, oh, my heart would have dropped out of my chest. I'm like, oh, crap. Dang it.
Well, he accused me of, what was it? Playing him or something like that.
Oh,
and I said, absolutely
no.
not. I just didn't tell you. Why do I need to tell you where I'm at?
Wow. I love this. This is a great romance story because it starts out with everybody's like sketchy of each other. It's like, oh, is this person sketchy? I don't know what's going on here.
Right.
That's really great though. Like you said, you realized he didn't have any ulterior motives, no agenda. He's a unicorn, right? Because I'm going to speak on behalf of all men. We mostly have agendas, especially when it comes to women, if I'm just being honest. So the fact that someone like him existed in that period is like, I mean, you should marry him. What do you think?
Well, I did.
That's really great. So then what happens after that? You told him if you was ever in Seattle, you could have a cup of coffee. Then what? What happens after that?
Well,
I'm interested in the story now.
Okay. We kept talking, and back and forth, and we started getting a little bit more serious. And this is all over Facebook and Marco Polo, by the way. And one day he said something to me about, I think, like wishing he could like see me or something. And I said, well, effort is, and there it was an expletive there, sexy. And he got the hint, and he immediately got a ticket to come to Seattle to see me. I mean, just like that. He got off Facebook Messenger with me and immediately booked a ticket.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was like, wow, who does that, right? So he was really pretty serious. And so he came up to Seattle, and we had a wonderful weekend. He got to meet my friend Cynthia that I was living with. We went on lots of dates. He was only there for, I think, 4 days. And we actually got to, just a coincidence happened. And so everything in life that happens to us that we think are coincidences.
Sorry for interrupting you. What was the first date? I gotta hear this. How did the first date go?
Well, the first date, oh my goodness.
You?
Well, I was so shy when he came off the airplane. I was so nervous, and that was just strange because we've been talking and having these great conversations on Facebook.
Was that the first time you ever met him in person?
No, I'd met him before at synagogue. At Chabad.
Right. That's why y'all.
Yeah. So, but now I'm meeting him in a different aspect, right? So I was extremely shy. I am an introvert, and so some people are surprised when I tell them that, but I was very shy, and so he's all excited to see me, and I just kind of withdrew like this, like, ooh.
So it almost was kind of like meeting him for the first time.
Was.
Because it was at a different light, like you said.
Right.
So I can imagine did you have butterflies?
I did. Oh my goodness. And then what we did is we went to a grocery store to get kosher food, because we have certain dietary restrictions. And he bought me these beautiful flowers, lilies. He made lists of everything I told him. Like anything I liked, he would write it down so he wouldn't forget.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
This guy is like such a born romantic. I want to marry him.
So he knew what flowers to get me. I love lilies. And then from there, we got some sushi and we went to a park. And that was kind of like our first date, but really what we had planned was to go to dinner that night. Which we did after the sushi, but I was so shy while we were eating our sushi in the park, and he's got this picture of me that he snapped where I'm just like have my head bent, and but my shyness was actually really great because it intrigued him even more.
I bet.
So anyway, then we went and we had dinner in a restaurant, and then we went over to where I was staying with my friend Cynthia.
Wow, that is amazing. What other romantic things does he do? Can I ask? It's not too personal. Does he spout off poetry for you?
Well, every day he sends me little memes saying how much he loves me, or I make his heart beat, or any nice sweet things like that. Just a little reminder in the middle of the day. He takes time to make sure that I know that I'm on his mind. He gets me flowers every Friday. Yes, he tells me he adores me and all sorts of sweet things.
Oh, Matt, let's take a break. I got to take a cold shower real quick. That is fantastic. That's really awesome. I hope anybody listening to this or watching it gets inspired by this. This is what real romance should be like, and this is what it should feel like, and this is what it should sound like. There's so many people that get caught up in everything going on in the world. They forget that life can be a sweet, sappy romantic movie if you let it. I've always tried to live by that motif too, go above and beyond, and just to try to I don't know, not even just to win somebody, just because it's my expression of who I am. I've always I've been accused of being an over romancer of life anyway. So yeah, any guy listening to this what she's saying, you got to be more like Gabriel, her husband. You got to do these things, guys. If you're not doing this, you're slipping, boys. Get on it.
And I want to just say something to the ladies.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so let me just give you a little backstory. I knew Gabriel before, and he was married, right? But he got divorced, but I was not in a place where I would have been able to receive his love because I had a history of getting into the wrong relationships. I liked the bad boys, okay? The nice guys were boring, okay? But that was a lot to do with what I thought love was supposed to look like. And when I realized that was after that abusive relationship, when I realized I had that cycle, I did everything I could to break it. I even did hypnotherapy. And I realized that if I was going to get the man of my dreams, the love of my life, I had to be ready for him. So I'd had a list, of an 8 by 11 page, that notebook paper of what I wanted in a husband. I had the whole front of it was filled out, and almost the entire back of it, about half a page, was filled out. And it had this whole list. And somebody actually saw it one time and told me I was nuts. No man existed like that. Okay. But the thing was, I wasn't nuts. The man did exist like that. And it's my husband, Gabriel. He did exist, but I wasn't ready for him. So even if we say we want this version of a man that treats us so romantically and sweet and nice and does all these great things, sometimes we've got to get ourselves ready for them. Because as much as we don't like to admit it, oftentimes it's us that has a problem. I mean, I hear so many women say, oh, there's no more good guys out there. Oh, there's no nice guys. Where are they, all the nice guys? They're all married, or they're homosexual, or they're this, or they're that. And I'm like, well, maybe it's you. Maybe you need to be ready. Maybe you need to work on yourself, because if you got into a relationship right now, would you really receive that love? Would you really accept it? Or would you be like, oh, you're too nice. Just stop treating me so nice. I need a jerk,
Yeah.
Okay. That happens a lot with a lot of women. So that's my thing to women out there. If you want that kind of guy, make sure you're ready for him. And then when you get him, treat your relationship like it's the beginning and not the end.
I love that you said that too, because I feel like that ties into a lot more than just with like the romantic aspect of it, because it's basically someone checking themselves, right? As you said, maybe there's something wrong with you. And a lot of people, they're so quick to take that judgmental pendulum and point it at outwards, right? Instead of like going back this way. I mean, I know this from personal experience. I used to be a person that I spent a lot of time like judging somebody else and stuff, instead of like really looking at myself. I'm like, oh, well, maybe you're the problem, Mitchell. Maybe you need to reevaluate. Maybe you need to improve what you're trying to do. And as like a perfect example of this is my mom. She'll go into these little rants where she's talking to me about something, and if she's mad at me, she just goes on and she's just bitching me out, and I'm having to sit there and listen to all this stuff. And then I'm the kind of person that whatever someone gives me, I give back to them, and sometimes even tenfold. And then, so like, obviously if she's like fussing at me, then I'm gonna start fussing at her. And then her voice gets louder. My voice gets louder. I get angry. She gets, and it just keeps going. And then it ends with like just some silly, dumb, like, angry thing. And it was just pointless. And it always ends up with her hanging up on me and not telling me she loves me. Right. And Mom, if you're watching this, I'm just saying, I still love you. It's okay. But a perfect example is that one time I thought about that, and she was just going off on me about something she didn't understand, something she was ignorant to. And I started to get agitated, and I started thinking, what if I just like treated this the exact opposite way? And she was like, fussing at me. I was like, man, she's Vietnamese. That's mother in Vietnamese. I was like, what? I was like, why are you getting so mad at me right now? Why are you raising your voice? Like, I called, because I called her. I was like, I called you just to talk to you. I was telling you about something. Like, I don't understand why you're so mad. Why? Like, it's cool. Like, I just called. I love you and everything. I don't understand why you're so mad about this. Like, we're just talking. You don't have to fuss at me. I was like, I get what you're saying. I understand. We can talk about it later or something. If you're upset about it, we can talk about it. But you don't have to be mad at me. And I noticed her temperament started lowering, right? And then she started talking to me in a lower registry. And then it went from her being like, oh, I can't believe, Mitchell, you just made me so mad, all this, to she was like, okay, well, are you going to come over tomorrow and get some soup? Mommy make you some soup? And I was like, yeah, of course. I'll come over for some pho. Yeah. And then she was like, okay, well, I'll see you. You be careful, okay, Mitchell? Love you.
Aw.
And it was so funny. I was like, I got off the phone and I was like, oh, what did I just do? I changed the dynamic of this. Holy crap. I found a cheat code in this video game. But yeah, I just went on a long tangent there. But yeah, so like people, I think, just need to look deeper in themselves about like what they're doing. Like what can they change to be better? And obviously you're relaying that to romance, and I think that's very important. So Yeah, I tip my hat to you on that. That's a lot. I know a lot of women that don't think that way, and even maybe some of them might listen to this and like roll their eyes like, "Oh, that lady, she didn't know what she's talking about." Blah 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 blah. But I think it takes a really strong person to kind of, look inward at what you're doing and what you could do better and how you can improve. Right? So we're all supposed to be improving in life.
Yep. Well, just along that line, and I know there are a lot of women who probably roll their eyes, but we have to focus on ourselves. Focusing on other people does not resolve things. If we need to make ourselves better and our life gets better, we need to make ourselves better and our friendships get better. We need to work on ourselves. We need to look at ourselves. But there was a lady, her name's Stacey. I don't remember her last name. She and her husband about 20 something years ago were at the point where their marriage was done. And she readily acknowledges that it was her fault because she was called the Ice Princess. Okay? That was her name.
I dated a girl like that once.
She was the Ice Princess. And her husband came home one day and said, "You know what? I've tried everything. I can't do it anymore. We're just going to have to end this." And she started crying, and she'd never cried before. Her husband had never seen her cry before.
Oh, wow.
And she said, listen, because all of a sudden she felt love for him, which she had never really felt love before. And she said, "Just give me another chance. I'm going to work on this. Let me just try." And he said, "Well, okay. All right, that's fine." And what she did was she began working on herself. She got all these books. She did everything she could, and she just focused on herself. She didn't get into couples therapy. She didn't go to marriage counseling. She just focused on herself. She saved her marriage by focusing on herself. They are now still happily married. And besides that, they help thousands of people save their marriages. They have a program that has a 1% divorce rate. The people that come there, most of them do not get divorced. Only 1%.
Wow. And they're here in the local Birmingham area?
They're not in Birmingham. They are actually in Idaho. And I wish I could remember her last name, but her name is Stacey. And yes, she and her husband, they decided to help other people, other couples in their marriages. And she says in her program, they don't focus on couples. They focus on one person, just one person. Because all it takes is one person. You stay in an abusive relationship. Obviously not. If you're in an abusive relationship, that's a totally different ballgame. You get out of an abusive relationship.
Yeah. Now, what I was going to say was, I'm assuming their course is available digitally.
Mm-hmm.
Like people can. Okay. Good. Cool. Well, if after the show's over, you can send me that stuff, and I can put a link to their website, their business, and all that. If people are interested in that. Yeah, that's cool. You're so interesting. I'm so glad that we connected. God bless that Matt Holder.
I know, he's great.
I don't care how much I can beat him up. Next time he's going to see me, he's going to try to choke me out. Oh, man. Yeah, so if anybody's wondering, Matt Holder is a mutual friend of ours. I've known Matt for many, many, many years. Me and him used to work at Sam's Club together, and I thought he was just a weirdo. That's why I liked him, because I like the people that are interesting. I love the outliers, but I love he's a very passionate person. So, and then we connected with, he was into, I've always been an advocate and partial practitioner of martial arts growing up, and he's always like that. We used to, I remember we used to like shadow box each other and wrestle with each other at Sam's, and then members, would walk by and we'd be like, oh, it was so, we were two grown men just grappling with each other. It's super silly. But yeah, me and Matt kept up through all the years, and he's a great guy. So a shout out. Thanks, Matt, for suggesting Sarah to be on the show. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Matt.
So how did you do life coaching where what was you saying? Transformation?
Transformation life coaching.
Yeah.
Yes.
Transformation life coaching. So what does that entail exactly? And how did you get into something like that?
Well, about 5-6 years ago, I decided to get certification as a health coach. And then as it went on, I decided that I wanted to do more. I love health and wellness. I love nutrition.
Same here.
Okay. But then I decided I wanted to do more. I've been through so many intense situations and very serious and even traumatic situations, and I've grown from them, and I've learned so many things. I had to go through a learning curve, but I decided to transition into transformation life coaching in order to help people transform their lives. Say they're here, they're at point A, and they don't like their life. They're unhappy. Maybe they're looking in the mirror every morning going, gosh, does life get any better? And just struggling in life. Or maybe they're not even struggling. Maybe they just know that they want to be somewhere else. They want to be here, point B, and there's this gap between point A and point B. So I help them bridge that gap. I help them discover how they can get to point B. I help them find out what's inside of themselves, which has always been there, but maybe because of limiting beliefs, they think they're not enough, or they think, oh, life will never get any better. I help them identify those limiting beliefs and get rid of them, and then get the results they want, get to point B.
Okay. That's amazing. Now, as a woman of Jewish faith, is this specifically just to the Jewish community, or do you open your doors to just everybody?
No, I coach everybody. I originally thought I would just be coaching women, but I have wound up coaching a lot of men.
Okay.
So,
wow, that's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah. And
men should listen to you. Definitely.
So my husband says he thinks I hope I'm not bragging here, but he thinks I understand men really well. So, right, honey?
It's funny. I used to say that about women, and they were like, oh, no, you don't.
Well,
That's why you're single, Mitchell. I'm not single now, but I'm saying like.
Well, no, my husband's the one who told me that. I never would have thought that about myself, but he told me that. So
yeah, well, I mean that's really good. I've always and now I'm not actually joking, but I've always felt a certain connection with women, and I'm not trying to be silly by saying this, but I mean I'm part of a generation of men raised by women, right? Like my I didn't have a father really growing up. I mean, he was kind of in and out. And then I had a stepdad, but not for very long. So my mom, who is a foreigner, was both my mother and my father, like for me growing up. And then I have two older sisters, and they really kind of, like I was raised by women. And so I've always felt like I don't know.
You should have a lot of insight.
I guarantee you there's probably, I don't know, if some, and I say this a lot as a joke, but if there's some ex like listening to this, we're like, oh, no, he doesn't. Yeah, well, maybe I do. We just didn't work out. I'm sorry. But anyway, let me get off my soapbox with that. But I've always felt like, because it's funny, my fiance that I talk to now, like when we first started dating, I used to talk to her about like the concept of men and like how we have these agendas and we're like buttholes and all this other stuff. And just stuff like that. And then she's like, yeah, I've never been with a guy who I almost feel like I'm talking to like one of my disgruntled girlfriends about guys, but with you instead, who is a guy and who is like courting me romantically. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm just honest about it. Like I know what it's like. I was raised by women, but I'm also a man. And I was like, I get it. Like there's, I don't know. I guess I don't know enough to really speak on this subject too much. That's why I don't coach anybody. But yeah, I think it's really good to understand the opposite sex, especially if you're trying to help them. So in your case, if you understand men, that's really good, and they're in your clientele, then they can feel like you're giving them some very good feedback and some good information to go off of, and they get that opposite sex dynamic from you because you are a woman. That's why I've always liked having female friends, platonically, because I like that dynamic. Because most of all my friends are male, like men, like especially growing up, and there's only that one side perspective. But then when I started being friends, like just friends with girls, like I got this new, fresh perspective about things, and I think that's very important for people, don't you?
I do. So along the lines of men, I don't think all men are assholes. I don't think all men are only have one agenda.
And I wasn't trying to say that either. Okay. I'm not saying all men are assholes. Just say,
Okay.
I don't know what I'm saying. Don't listen to me. I'm crazy.
So anyway, I don't think that. I think now this might sound cheesy, but when I really started to try to understand men, see, I had my issues with men. A number of years ago, I had my issues with men. I thought they were a bunch of,
Just because of what you went through.
Just because of what I went through. But I really tried to kind of just imagine if I was a mother and I had a little boy, I would obviously understand the little boy's feelings, and I would understand his thoughts, and I would, see him in a different light. So why do we, when we are looking at other men, we're forgetting that aspect of them that a mother would see? Not that I'm trying to be a man's mother, but do you understand what I'm trying to say? Men have feelings. Men want things. They want the love of their life. I don't know how many men I've talked to, and they just want to meet the love of their life. They're looking for that soulmate. Whereas modern society has taught women that men just want to sleep around and get whatever they can out of a woman. They're not looking for that soulmate, but there are so many men that are looking for a soulmate, for that woman of their dreams.
Yeah, I believe it, and I didn't mean to try to come off as if I was saying that. Obviously, I have a bunch of guys trying to fight me now. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, no, I get it. What you do is fantastic. I'm like just meeting you and hearing you talk about all this stuff. This is truly spellbinding, Sarah. It really is. I'm glad that somebody like you exists, especially in the Birmingham area. We need more people of like eclectic nature reaching out and like gathering people together, connecting people with not just other people, but with themselves and with like improving their lives. I think that's the most important part, right? Just improving yourself and being the best you and being an inspiring being for others. Because it's contagious. It spreads out,
And, right now during this COVID time, we have so much opportunity to improve ourselves. We have so much opportunity to really get our priorities in order, to focus on ourselves. And not from a selfish perspective, because self-care is really important. It's really not selfish. What's the Bible verse say? It says, love your neighbor as yourself. How are you ever going to love your neighbor or your friend or your acquaintance or somebody you don't know if you're not very good at loving yourself? So you're only ever going to love somebody else as much as the capacity you have to love yourself. So, but right now during this COVID time, we have so much opportunity to really take a look at ourselves, to really grow, to really improve our lives. And I think that people should take that opportunity instead of focusing on like all the negative aspects of COVID. Oh, we're shut in our house. Oh, we have to wear these masks, which I hate wearing the mask, by the way. Oh,
I don't know anybody that likes it. Well, I don't know. Do you know anybody that likes wearing those masks, Matt? Do you like wearing them?
Nah, not at all. I absolutely hate them. I'd rather burn them.
What if that's a new thing? Like, what was it in the 70s where the women were burning their bras?
Yeah, that's what I was about to bring up.
A movement with like hashtag burn masks, and there's like this big uproar or something.
Exactly.
Burn all the masks.
Right. So.
Hey, be careful with that pseudo conspiracy talk, Matt. You're gonna get us shut down.
Oh gosh, God forbid. So, but anyway, instead of focusing on the negative aspects, look at what we have the opportunities to do.
Wow, that's cool. That's super cool. Look at you over there, Gabriel. You lucky guy, you. I don't even know you. I'm so lucky. That's awesome. So now I'm going to get to the point of the show where it gets a little bit deeper. You've talked about some pretty deep stuff already, but, I like to ask people more specifically, more individually, especially what's going on in their lives currently. And what are you, Sarah, what are you wrestling with right now personally? What is something you're wrestling with, the demons you're fighting with that you're trying to beat? How are you going to beat them? What are you going to do?
Well, my husband and I have been working on having a baby for a little bit over 2 years now.
Okay.
And we've been working really hard at it, and it just hasn't happened. So we've had 2 IUIs.
What is it? What is an IUI?
An IUI is an intrauterine insemination where they take a man's semen and they put it through a catheter past the cervix, and so it can go into the uterus.
I just didn't know the terminology. Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we've had 2 IUIs. And we were set for IVF, June, July-ish, but then COVID happened and a series of different things caused us to not be able to go forward with it at this time. And so we're hoping to do it in September or October. But that is, when you ask me about something I'm wrestling with, that is extremely I've been through a lot of difficult things, so I can't say it's the most difficult thing I've ever been through, but imagine every month you realize you're not pregnant and just the utter devastating feeling that you have. Some months I'm great, I'm okay, but some months if I go on Facebook and I see I saw a video recently of a woman just filming her son having a swim lesson, and it just sent me in a downward spiral. And I was just like, ugh. And I had to really work hard to get myself out of that negative emotional state. Thankfully, because I am a life coach, I have a lot of tools at my disposal that I can use to get myself out of that negative emotional state, which I have to use because that's a hard topic for me, hard subject for me.
Is it safe to assume, I guess, that you don't have actual children? This would be your first child?
This would be my first child.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then your husband as well, or?
My husband has 2 children.
Okay. And so you guys are trying to have, what, do you have a preference? As you've said boy a couple times, so I'm assuming, are you leaning towards the?
I love
the
boys. I love girls too. I would like a boy and I would like a girl.
Yeah.
At first I just was like, boys would be great, And then I was like, no, I really want a girl so I can put her in dresses and teach her all this stuff that I should have known when I was a teenager, So save her a lot of trouble.
Man, I don't think I've heard stories and seen things. I don't know if I've met anybody in person that actually has been struggling with fighting with trying to have a child, but I can imagine it's pretty taxing, and when you're, every month you're checking your test and you're like, oh man, and the moment you see that, what is it, the Blue Plus, then it's like winning the lotto.
Right.
The biological lotto, ladies and
And
gentlemen.
I've never seen that Blue Plus. So.
Yeah, well, there's still plenty of time,
Oh yeah.
Still plenty of time. Wow. Thanks for sharing that. That's so in September, you said that hopefully things are going to open up and you're going to try to get back into the program of what is it, being inseminated? Is that the correct term?
IVF is where they take women, they surgically remove a woman's eggs. Well, first, before you do that, you have to take a lot of injections to basically get a super amount of eggs into your ovaries. Normally, you get 1 or 2 in these follicles in your ovaries. But with IVF, you want to get as many eggs as possible. So you get put on this regiment or protocol of many different drugs, and you get to shoot yourself in the stomach, you get to shoot yourself in the behind, you get to shoot yourself in the legs, and you have to take pills, and it can make you super crazy. I've done 2 IUIs. I know. Those made me crazy. So the first IUI I did Clomid. And Clomid, I don't recommend to anyone.
What is Clomid?
Clomid is, I don't know the full name, but it is a drug that you're given to help you with the production of your eggs. And it really jacks your hormones up. It makes you really crazy. And there can be other side effects as well. It made me one moment weepy, one moment enraged, one moment just off the wall, one moment just, I'm so sorry. I can't believe you're putting up with me.
Gabriel, I'm so sorry. My heart goes out to you, brother.
But thankfully, I have a husband who also understands a lot about women.
He seems like he'd be very patient.
Oh
gentleman.
my gosh. I've tried to have fights with him and he just won't do it. And so then afterwards, I'm like, well, thank you, God, that I have a husband who will not fight with me. And that sounds bad, but every once in a while we get into a situation where we're upset about something. And so we think that if we can just fight with somebody else, it will actually make things better. It's this psychological thing that we do. And so we'll try to pick a fight with somebody just to make us feel better, to get rid of that excess anger. So occasionally when I'm upset about not having a baby, I might pick a fight, but he never falls for it.
Good job, Gabriel. So let me ask this question. So you're trying to get, pregnant, obviously. Now, in the event, hypothetically, that you can't do that biologically, or you don't get that blessing, are you open to adoption and stuff like that, or what?
Sure.
I guess, has that been a discussion?
Yes, it has been a discussion. And I actually looked into fostering and then adopting, but we decided not to go that route.
What's the difference between fostering and adopting?
Oh gosh,
I've never really
I don't really know.
been clear on it.
Fostering, I really can't tell you because I did fostering. You basically take care of children, but they're not yours. You don't adopt them. And I really can't give too much information about that. And you're just kind of watching over them, and they might move to a different foster home or something like that, while maybe their parents are getting things straightened out in their lives, or an adoptive parent they're trying to find an adoptive parent for the child. I've known people that were foster parents, but and also as you're fostering, you can eventually adopt that child if you want to. Now in Alabama, you have to be married at least 3 years to actually go straight to adoption, and there is an age cutoff limit. So I believe, I haven't looked into it, but I believe the age is 60, and my husband is 60. So
no way. Holy crap, dude! Whatever you're doing, Keep doing that. Jeez Louise. I
Yeah.
feel like Matt's going to be like that when he gets older.
And
He looks super young.
and he's 18 years older than me. So, anyway, so we have talked about adoption. And so, yeah, if it was impossible, which I don't think anything is impossible.
No, I don't either.
So then that is another thing that I would love to adopt a child.
Do you have, I guess, specifications or preferences of where you would adopt, or is there any certain race of child you would want to
Well,
adopt?
my husband is originally from Colombia, South America. So that's where we decided that's where we would adopt from.
Beautiful. That's wonderful.
I would also entertain the idea of adopting a child from America because there are actually so many needy children in America.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of people actually don't think about that. They usually are adopting internationally. But I mean, I guess it's the same way with people feeding the homeless in other countries. But there's homeless here. I know I volunteer, partner with a local nonprofit organization. So there's definitely people here around you that need assistance. They're not all just fake hustlers on the side of the road trying to get money from you.
When I moved here from Oregon, in Oregon, I saw homeless everywhere. And I actually would give them, whenever I knew exactly where people were. And there was this one guy named Jesse, and he was obviously a Vietnam vet. He had lost his leg, and I would go and give him things every Friday. But when I moved to Birmingham, I was shocked that I couldn't find homeless people. I could not. There was I rarely see somebody holding a sign. So that is very important that your people are taking care of the homeless in their city, as well as overseas, because we really should be working on where we are before we consider going out other places.
Somebody was saying once, and I'm paraphrasing it, but they were talking about if you want to go to an African country to fellowship with a black man or child and stuff like that, but you're not willing to fellowship with them here, then you're a hypocrite. If you're only because people here need help. And he was using that. It was like a seminar, and he was talking about racism or something. That's why the black man thing came up. But the point was if you pick and choose who you're willing to help based on circumstance or what you want or entitlement or something, then that's silly. Everybody needs help. Doesn't matter who they are.
Exactly.
And what walk of life they're from, or yeah. Well, I've got good hopes for you all and your baby quest.
Thank you.
So, and you can keep me posted on that. And
yep.
So, Sarah, if somebody is watching this right now, and the stuff that you are saying is relevant to them, maybe they've dealt with abuse, or maybe they're struggling to try to have a child themselves, and I know that's a big heart-wrenching thing for people, and they're asking you that, well, what do I do? Because I feel like the walls are closing in on me, and this is hard. Sarah, what do I do? What would you say to them right now?
Well, you've given me two things to talk about here.
Yeah. Go.
Okay.
Have a party with it.
Okay. Struggling with abuse. This is it can be very frustrating, this area, because there's so many dynamics involved with abuse. I don't know if you've ever heard of or seen for yourself where a man, I'll just share you the story about this guy named Kane Ramsey.
Cool name.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He's a cool guy. He's also a life coach. He's based in the UK. That's where I've learned a lot of my stuff from. I've learned from him and from Tony Robbins. But he was actually driving in his car, and as he was passing a bar, he saw this woman getting beat up by what was obviously her boyfriend. So he stopped, and he was thinking, well, I need to go help out. And before he could even get out of his car, two guys came up, and they pulled the guy off the woman, and they started to restrain him. The woman got up and started to beat them, okay, because now she's protecting her abuser. And so when you have that abuse situation, there's so many dynamics involved. So many people say, well, why don't women just get out? And men get abused too. Why don't women just get out? There are so many reasons for it. One, comfort zone. If you are comfortable with a certain situation, and then you get out of that situation, if you are not thinking clearly and making conscious decisions and conscious choices, you will go right back to that situation because that's your comfort zone. Then there's financial reasons why women don't get out or men don't get out. There's the emotional abuse that's tied in there oftentimes, where a woman is just so beaten down and just has completely lost herself. Her self-worth is completely destroyed. That happened to me. My self-worth was completely destroyed. I remember writing in my journal, who am I? And I had no answer because I had completely lost myself. The emotional abuse was so horrible that I couldn't answer the question. I was utterly devastated. So there are so many dynamics, but if a woman is in an abusive situation and she really wants to get out, she's got to take massive action and she's got to go for it and not look back. And that means cutting off her abuser. That means changing her phone number. That means getting somewhere safe. That means blocking his email. That means getting new friends because you probably have mutual friends. You've got to get new friends. Stay away from those mutual friends that would definitely let him keep tabs on you because that's what happened to me. I had this person who actually had moved somewhere else, had gone overseas, was planning on coming back, but he was keeping tabs on me through people he knew here that knew me.
That's so scary. Such a scary thing.
So that's why I took the drastic steps that I did, was to go somewhere else. But then I met my Gabriel, and he made me feel safe. And he made me realize that, everything was okay and I didn't need to be so full of anxious. But anyway, going back to that, number one, you got to get out of your comfort zone. You got to be willing to get out of that comfort zone. You got to take massive action. You got to go where it's safe. You got to do what it takes to get away from your abuser. And then you got to keep yourself from going back because that is such a temptation to go back. And we're naturally very forgiving. Women are naturally very forgiving. Oftentimes men are too, but women are naturally very forgiving. We want to forgive the person that we love. We have to, we want to, because we have so much love inside of us. And this is something men need to realize. A woman will give everything to a man. I mean, when you have Gabriel on here, when you do, just ask him about that because we both have 2 books. And I'm going on a fun tangent here, but I have a book written by Rabbi Shalom Arush, okay, about the Garden of Peace, a marriage guide for women. And he's got great tips in there. But then a man is not supposed to read this book. It's only for women. And my husband has a book that I gave him, as Garden of Peace, written by the same man, for men on marriage.
Interesting.
Yes. And women are not supposed to read this. Why? Because if a woman reads it, she's going to say, hey, you're not holding up your end of the deal here, man. You got to do this stuff better. Okay.
I guarantee you, though, to say that they're not supposed to is going to make people want to.
Oh, no. I respectfully refrain from picking up that book, as he respectfully refrains from picking up that book. Yeah. But anyway.
That's you guys, though. There's people who are like, oh, what? I'm not supposed to? I'm reading it. I don't care what they say.
And then I would say they have an issue with boundaries.
Yeah,
and they need to work on that. So that's another thing with somebody trying to get out of abuse. Work on your boundaries. You obviously have a problem with boundaries if you are in an abusive situation and you're allowing yourself to be stepped on. You're allowing the most vulnerable parts of yourself to be beaten up and dragged down and destroyed. Work on your boundaries. You need to get your boundaries. And there's this great book called Boundaries, and it's by Townsend and, gosh, I forget the other person's name, but I read it.
Yeah, I've seen that book.
Okay.
I haven't read it.
It has a little bit of a religious slant to it, but it's great. I actually was given to it by a therapist when I was going through counseling. She gave it to me, and I thought it was a great book. I don't have it anymore. I gave it to somebody else, and they didn't return it. But anyway, so
you asshole.
anyway,
return that book right now.
So work on boundaries, work on your self-care, work on your self-identity, work on your self-worth. And there's so much I could do to say, just go. There's so much more to say about that. There is so much more to say about that. Get a support system, whether that is a support group. YWCA has wonderful support groups. There's this place here in Birmingham, if you're in the Birmingham area, in the Shelby County area, there's Shelby County Safe House, where they have therapists free of charge to help women with domestic abuse and sexual assault. There are so many resources for women who are abused nowadays that there really is nothing holding back a woman back from getting out of that situation. oftentimes, if they don't get out, and I'm say this with the utmost love and the utmost respect and the utmost care, because I kept forgiving my abuser. Oftentimes, we're scared, we're afraid. We don't want to get out of that comfort zone. And sometimes it has a lot more to do with us and why we don't get out than it does with our abuser. And I say that with almost love and respect. Trying to have a baby. Gosh, there's so many resources. Again, get a support system. Support system. Get a coach. I don't know. There's so many things. Get a really good doctor. Interview your doctors, because every doctor out there has a different view on IVF. The doctor that I'm going to is actually in New York, and he is wonderful. He's amazing. He mixes Eastern philosophy with Western, and which I really love. I really love that.
That's cool.
There's acupuncture. That can help with fertility, both for men and for women. There aren't too many studies on it, but they offer acupuncture at this particular clinic. There is certain diets that you can do. Some women, they suffer from PCOS, which is very inflammatory. And then there's many other conditions that are inflammation. Actually, inflammation is often a reason why sometimes a woman cannot get pregnant. So just changing the diet, going to a fertility diet, going to a keto diet. The doctor that I'm seeing, he wants me on a very strict keto diet prior to the actual IVF, because that reduces drastically inflammation and helps with the actual implantation, transfer and implantation of the egg. But get a support system and look into every resource. There's this phenomenal website called naturalfertility.info. And they have so much information on there as far as what you can do to help your body kickstart and maybe possibly conceive naturally. And through their methods, they've actually helped people, many people. There's also a doctor called Dr. Mark Sklar, MarkSklar. He's located, I think, in San Diego. He's also helped many, many women conceive naturally that IVF wasn't able to help them. There's just so many resources. Oftentimes we get overwhelmed because we don't know what to do. But when we realize that resources are readily available, it's oftentimes us that is not being resourceful. Then we can actually become more resourceful and realize that and see the resources and the opportunities that are out there.
Right, great. What if this person though, they're like, Sarah, I did all that stuff. I just this isn't gonna work. I'm losing all hope. It's not gonna happen. I know it. I don't deserve it. And blah blah blah. What would you say to them if they were saying that to you?
Well, I would have to sit down and talk with them, Mitchell. It's not a quick fix.
Yeah, so that means that they need to get your program, right?
They need to get my program. So somebody who doesn't think they can or they're not enough, they've obviously got some limiting beliefs. So we need to get down to the source of that. And that takes actually talking one-on-one and uncovering what's really down there very deep and hidden, maybe tucked away where you don't want anybody to see. But speaking about my program, I have one-on-one coaching where I have a 3-month package, a 6-month package, or a 12-month package. I also have a brand new course that I just put out, and I'm actually launching it tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm launching
Congratsies.
It's called Your 30-Day Transformation. Discover the warrior within and live your fullest life. So it takes...
Discover the warrior within. I like that.
Yes.
The war paint.
We all have a warrior. We all have a warrior inside ourselves. And sometimes we just don't think we do. So many of us, in fact, everybody on this planet has probably gone through a stressor, a disappointment, a traumatic experience. And people are going to respond to that one of two ways. They're either going to stay in that disappointment and live there and let that be their story, or they're going to grow and get better and do whatever it takes. So that's the warrior. That's what you want to get out of a person. That's what I try to bring up out of a person and say, hey, you are enough. And that's another thing. Somebody who's saying they're not enough, We can change that through how we speak about ourselves. You hear that thing about affirmations, right? Say affirmations. Stand in the mirror and say, I'm enough. I'm wonderful. I'm this, I'm that, I'm loved. Well, I'd say don't say affirmations. I say incantations, which is something Tony Robbins teaches. And incantations, some people might have a problem with that word. But what that means is when you're saying, I am enough, you're saying it with intensity. You're saying it with passion. You're saying it with every part of yourself so that you change your state. You change how you see yourself because you have to affect yourself with belief. And how do you affect yourself with belief? You say it like you mean it. You don't just say, I'm enough. I'm loved. You say, I am enough. You say, I never give up. And through those things, just by saying, I never give up, and you make sure you say it with passion, you're going to convince yourself of it. And guess what? You're going to act like it. And you're going to do what it takes to never give up. You're going to push through, even if that means you adopt a baby instead of having your own pregnancy.
Woo! That was awesome.
Okay.
Sarah, you were delightful.
Well, thank you.
So, and thank you for sharing all that. That's really wonderful. I feel like there's I've gotten a lot of insight from this conversation myself personally, but I feel like anybody listening or watching this, there's a lot to take away from this. And I'm so glad that people like you exist. I want you to keep doing what you're doing. You gotta, you're a missionary. You're a missionary in life. You got a mission, and you got to keep going out there. You got to get people, to see the light, my sister. So real quick, plug in, how can people find you? How can they get in your program, find your business, follow you on social media?
Okay, well, you can send me a friend request on Facebook. It's Sarah Rezonzew. You can join my Facebook group, which is specifically for people. I just started it about, a week or 2 weeks ago. And it's called Live Your Fullest Life, Transformation Coaching by Sarah. That's a group where you can actually come in, and once a week I give training, I give tips, I give answer questions if people have questions and things like that. There's that group. Then there is my Facebook page, which is Your Next Best Life, which is the name of my business. Your Next Best Life, Transformation and Life Coaching by Sarah. I think that's the name. I know it is Your Next Best Life. I've got so many things. So, and then I'm on Instagram under Your Next Best Life. You can also go to my website, which is www.yournextbestlife.com. And you can read about me. You can read about how to work with me. My programs are there. You can send me an email and get on my email list. And you can also, there's a pop-up. There's a pop-up. It's a great big nice pop-up. And it tells you about my new course, about how you can transform your life. We go through so many different things in that course, and actually helps people in the end. In 30 days, if they do everything, if they apply everything, then they're going to be happier. They're going to have more confidence. They're going to know who they are. They're going to see that they are capable of more than they could ever imagine. They're going to have clarity on their goals, and they're going to be able to get results. They have to keep it. Now, something about coaching actually causes people to get 4 times the results they would get if they were just doing it on their own. And investing in yourself by doing coaching, studies have shown that it gives you a 10-to-1 return on your investment. So investing in yourself in that area is a really powerful thing to do.
Yeah, that's the best investment you could ever make in life, is in yourself.
Yep.
Gold and silver and all that stuff is going to fade away one day. But you, an idea of you, lasts forever. Thank you so much, Sarah.
You're
I really appreciate it.
welcome.
You are awesome. You're a beautiful person on the inside and out. And I thank you so much for being here. I hope we can remain friends and keep up with each other. And we might have you on again. And I'd love to get Gabriel on at some time soon, whenever my schedule opens up. Ladies and gentlemen, this is another episode of the Wrestling Diaries, where we find out the things that people are struggling with and what they're wrestling with in life. And we hear their wonderful stories and their awesome, inspirations and find out just that how much an ordinary person is actually extraordinary. Tell me, what do you wrestle with and how can you beat it? One love.